Well, today we've talked about a lot of aspirational things and things we need to do to bring our nation back for the majority of the American people. But I have actually good news, because a lot of this is like, oh, what we got in front of us. So maybe they were tuned into our lunch. Suzanne was there, Kurt was there. And I talked about how I'd been investigating the Trump Hotel and the FBI headquarters and other violations of emoluments. And I said, but the most unbelievably blatant thing, which is a clear violation of the emoluments clause, no matter how you look at it, was Trump dictating that the G7 should come to his hotel. Well, I got a text and an email tonight. They backed off on doing that. And maybe they were tuned into our lunch speeches. I don't know, Suzanne. I don't think Kurt's here, but that was, that's the beginning of the end, I hope. I really do. And it could be. I'm not going to repeat my lunch speech because I really want you all to hear from Sharice. Jeff is a little Senate-centric. They're like the big dogs on the block. There's only 100 of them. There's 435 of us. So he didn't mention, what should have been number one was keep the United States House of Representatives in Democratic control. Before we took back the House, when Trump came in and they had the House and the Senate and the White House, we were kind of like mosquitoes, kind of like we were irritating, but we didn't have the clout. But now, with Nancy Pelosi, yes, it's all very, very, very different. So the number one priority is keep the House. Then we go on to taking back the Senate, the White House, whatever. We need it all. We need to change course for this country. Now, in the last election, I'm not a prolific fundraiser, never have been, but I wanted to help us get back the House. So I targeted 27 districts where I traveled and I raised money on red to blue districts. But I got to tell you, there was one where I was like, I'm looking at the ads, Katie Hill, great, mountain climbing ad. Oh, that's cool. Okay, we got to support her. She's great. But I saw Sharice's ad, mixed martial arts. Okay, I was a wrestler. And so today she was talking about that. We've done a few events with her today, a fundraiser, an event with the tribes. And she talked about the attitude and the training to be a champion in mixed martial arts and how it allowed her or helped her to succeed in politics. And I think, God, I just love this woman. This is like so much the same thing I say day in, day out. There's just two of you out there. You can't blame anybody else. You got to do it. And she did it. She won a district in Kansas that we had lost more than a decade ago. She's the first Democrat in the whole state of Kansas elected to Congress in the last decade. And not only that, she goes beyond that. First Native American, okay? First LGBT, elected in the state of Kansas. And, and she's not the only one. You see a lot of press about the squad. They're doing some good stuff. But the class that put us back in the majority was so bigger than the squad. In red districts like hers, I was just in Abby Finkenauer's district in Iowa, red district. We took it back. I was just in Angie Craig's district in Minneapolis, St. Paul's. She took that back. And you look around the country, and you go down to Colin Allred in Texas, deep red district, got rid of the Rules Committee who ruled the Congress and stopped anything we wanted to do. He won that district. So all around the United States of America, we had fabulous, new, young candidates who will make our country whole again. That's what it's about. And she was a key part of that. So, I was so thrilled when the Democrats said, well, we'd really like to have Sharice come, and can you get her to come? And I said, well, I don't know, I'll work on it. And so, I was going to go to her district anyway, but I went there and got her a soft moment. I said, it's not easy to come from D.C. to here. We got in at midnight last night. And she agreed to do it, and she's off like at dark 30 to New Mexico tomorrow with Deb, and she's going to do an event down there. So I was so thrilled when she would come here. This is the future of the United States of America. You're going to hear from her. I've still got energy. I'm still going to do this for a while longer, but she is the future of America, looking like America, representing America, and making America whole again. With that, Sharice Davids.
Good evening. The first thing I want to do before I get started is if we could just take a minute to just think and reflect on the important role that Congressman Elijah Cummings played in our country with Congress in his own community, and obviously for Democrats. And I just want to say that our country lost an amazing leader and a great man, and I'd like us to just take a moment. Okay. I have this little book here. At the end of the Declaration of Independence, there's some pretty special words. We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. I carry around this is a much fancier version of the pocket constitution that my partner got me after I won my election. I've been carrying around a copy of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence since just before I went to law school. And I carry it around because although I'm not a great historian, I know that our country has a long, complex history. I'm not a great constitutional scholar, but I know that this Constitution and the Declaration of Independence are just as much mine as it is anyone else in this room. And I know that even though the men who wrote the words in these foundational documents of ours did not envision them applying to me, and didn't envision them applying to a lot of the people in this room tonight, that they absolutely do apply to us. Every single person in this country, every single person on American soil. And I thought about that when I was taking my oath of office, when I was sworn in and I got to take an oath to this country as one of the first 2 Native American women to serve in Congress in the history of our country. As the first out LGBTQ person to serve in Congress from Kansas. I thought about those words, and they're so powerful. That mutual pledge that we have taken is so powerful. And I cannot believe that I get the honor and the privilege of being able to stand here and say, I'm Sharice Davids. I represent the 3rd Congressional District in Kansas. So, thank you to Chairman DeFazio for starting that standing ovation. No, just kidding. Thank you for inviting me here. I didn't know he was waiting until a kind of quiet, soft moment during his trip to Kansas. I didn't realize he was pouncing, but I was actually so excited and felt very just a lot of gratitude to be invited out here. First of all, people often aren't sure which red box we are in the middle of the country. So it's great to be out here. It's great to meet so many amazing activists, elected officials. Our union folks are here. It's awesome. Thank you to the tribal leaders and tribal members who met with me today. I got the chance to thank the folks who have, the other natives who welcomed me here to this place. I know there have been, people have been stewards of this land for time immemorial, and it is a great privilege to be able to stand here today. I don't know how many of you know my story. Don't worry, I'm not going to give every little detail. But I was raised by a single mom who served in the Army for 20 years and 23 days. Anybody who's in the military knows they keep track of every day. And I feel like I have this actually very kind of common experience right up until I got into law school. We'll get to that. But my mom raised my brothers and I by herself, and we moved around a bit. I graduated from Leavenworth High School because that's where she retired after her service, and I had the chance to learn a lot during that experience. For a part of that time, my mom was a drill sergeant. I've got the push-ups to prove it. And I was the first person in my family to go to college, which is... So I'll share this. I consider myself to be a former first-generation college student. My mom graduated with her bachelor's degree about 3 years ago in history. And I absolutely benefited from the public education in Kansas. I got the chance to graduate from a really good public school. I had the chance to attend public universities. I had the chance to go to community college at Johnson County Community College, which is in the district I now get to represent. It took me 4 years to get my associate's degree. That's okay. I'm cool with that. I worked the whole time I was in school. 4 years after I got my associate's degree, I got my bachelor's degree. And then I got into Cornell for law school. That foundation from the public education that I got from Johnson County Community College to I'll be frank with the hard work that my mom put in to make sure that I was going to have opportunities to do what I wanted to do to thrive in life. That is what helped me have a successful, I didn't graduate at the top of my class in Cornell, but I graduated. And And I had this really strong foundation that I could stand on as I moved through my work doing community and economic development, when I had the chance to serve under President Obama as a White House fellow, which was, I think we should always clap for President Obama. And I'm going to skip forward a little bit. When I was looking at the job that my representative to Congress was doing for my community, I was dissatisfied. That's an understatement. She went, you know who I ran against? No, I'm just kidding. So I was dissatisfied because I didn't see someone who was listening to the community. I didn't see someone who was showing up in the community. And I didn't see someone who was really fighting for the things that most of the people who I knew were having to deal with. So I looked for somebody to run for the seat. At the time when I started looking to get someone to run for the seat, there were no women in the race. There weren't any women, there were 5 guys, the 5 guys. And I naturally was trying to figure out who's going to run for this seat. There are so many smart and amazing and driven women that would make an awesome representative for our district. And it is a disservice to us as a community if we don't at least have a woman on the ballot to vote for. And after phone call after phone call after phone call, running to different events, wondering who's going to do something, I thought to myself, if I'm going to be asking the question, who's going to do something about this problem, I probably should consider whether or not I'm going to be part of the solution. And so I decided to get into the race. I had more federal experience than the other people in the race. I'm a lawyer. And I felt like I had an experience that was not uncommon. And if Congress lacks anything, it's experiences that are not uncommon. Now that I'm there, I for sure, I don't know how many of you all in here are gonna run for stuff, but you better do it, please. So when I think about that, it's not uncommon to be raised by a single parent. It's not uncommon to have to work while you're in school. It's not uncommon to go to community college. It's not uncommon to have student loan debt. So when I got into the race, there were plenty of people who didn't think that I should be running for Congress. And I don't say that as a means of doing a bootstraps kind of story. It wasn't always because people were like, is Kansas really going to vote for an somebody who's part of the LGBT community? It wasn't that. Sometimes it was. It wasn't that usually, though. It wasn't because I was Native. It wasn't because of my educational background. It was because of the money. It was because people wondered if I was going to be able to raise enough money, because that's the first gauge that people use when they try to decide whether or not somebody is going to be a good candidate or not. And we have got to do something about that. So when I think about what we did in the 2018 election cycle, we reset expectations. We reset expectations about who runs for office, about who we support in their run for office, about how we support them. The number of people who knocked on doors in the 2018 election cycle who literally never knocked on a door before, some of that was the millennials, but I mean, people who had not worked on campaigns before. People who don't use the phone function on their phone were calling in phone banking. Apparently they were all in Chairman DeFazio's office. But we started this resetting of expectations of who we're going to elect to office. And in 2020, we get the chance to continue that, because this was just the first step. The 2018 election cycle was just the first step in us getting our country back on a track where we're headed toward the ideals and the values and the things that our country has been striving for since this was written. 2018 was the first step in making sure that our Congress and our Senate and the White House looks more like the United States, that it's not just representative, but also reflective of what our country looks like. And that is something everybody in here got to do. Because I often say, my name's the one on all the signs, and we got to get some hats. But at the same time that these campaigns are about the candidate, it's all about the candidate. It's not about the candidate at all. It's about who are the people that the candidate is going to listen to? Who are the people that the decision maker is going to listen to? And when you have more women and people of color and LGBTQ folks, single moms, people of different religious backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, when you have people who look and are more reflective in their lived experiences of the United States, you are definitely going to have a body of decision makers that are more willing to listen to the different experiences that each one of us has and know that those experiences are true and that they're valid and that they have to be part of all of our policy, no matter what we're talking about. So the 116th Congress did have more women and people of color and LGBTQ folks than any other Congress before. And to be able to say that I get to serve alongside Deb Haaland as one of the first 2 Native American women in Congress it's something that I can guarantee you, I don't know. I've never asked Deb this question, actually. It'd be really interesting. But I for sure never, ever thought when I was a little tiny kid that I would grow up to be a member of Congress. But what we've got now is a whole generation of kids who maybe Congress isn't necessarily the thing that they end up doing or want to do, but the ideas that they have about what they can do, about what kind of leaders they're going to be, has expanded. And if you think about, there's like a whole generation of, we'll say, 8-year-olds who, if they don't see like 25 women running for president next time around, they're going to wonder what happened. I'm going to take a brief detour and share a little story with you. One of my best friends has 2 sons. One of them was all about the campaign. He was 12, he's 13 now. He was knocking on doors. He was like listening to NPR. He knew about the Johnson County Commission races. And he was into it. His brother, he didn't really care that much. He cared because he cares about me. But he wasn't knocking on doors and coming to all the events and stuff. But the night of the election, he was trying to stay awake so he could see what the results were going to be. But he had pooped himself out earlier. He's 10. And so he's falling asleep, and he's like, "Mom, make sure to tell me what happens." And then he goes to sleep, and the next morning she wakes him up. And then he says, Mom, did Sharice win?" "Yeah, baby, Sharice won." "Did Laura Kelly win?" Yeah, baby. Laura Kelly won. Did Becky Fast win? She ran for county commission. Yes, she did. Mom, do boys ever win elections? She said the trend is downward. She didn't say that to him. So I think we've got a lot to be excited about after this 2018 election cycle. I mean, I was excited. And I know that we have a lot, I think we have a lot to be excited about in the 2020 cycle. It also helps us see that the work that we have done is clearly not even close to being over. And that's okay. Because if I know anything, it's that most of us have had to work so hard our entire lives that some of this is like, yeah, I can knock on a few more doors. I can make a few more phone calls. And I think that piece of it, that willingness to just keep working hard no matter what, because really there's no other option a lot of times for us. We don't have the luxury of not working hard every single day. And I know we're not going to stop until we've got the 3rd and 4th and 10th Native American woman in Congress, until we win the White House back. Until it doesn't feel like it's such a far stretch for us to start to work things like equity into every single policy we've got. Until we're investing in the way that we need to be in our education, until everybody has access to affordable quality health care. And that obviously includes reproductive services. And it, of course, includes reproductive services that are not only spoken about by cis women, for cis women, and only about cis women, because we need to be talking about this in a much more inclusive way. So now I'm going to get to the sexy stuff. Infrastructure. So I had the opportunity the other day to listen to a motivational speaker. This is the first time, I'm actually kind of surprised. This is the first time that I've ever been in real life sitting in an audience with a motivational speaker. It was pretty cool. He started talking about things that I was like, yes, it's all about the meaning. You gotta have meaning orientation. That's not the words I use, but I was really feeling it, right? And he started asking questions, like you gotta ask yourself these questions. Every time, if you start feeling down, you gotta ask yourself, what's the meaning? Why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? My question is, for what purpose am I doing this? The other question is, am I doing something that's bigger than myself? Am I working towards something that's bigger than myself? And the whole time he was talking, I was like, yes, this is infrastructure. So the reason I bring this up is not because the chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee is sitting right over there. The reason I wanted to be on that committee is because infrastructure touches every aspect of our lives. And oftentimes, people don't think about it until something has gone wrong. And I don't say that as a method of blaming people, because so many people are really just trying to live their lives. So some people don't have the luxury of thinking about a 10-year infrastructure plan, but some of us do. That's why I wanted to be on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Because if we can get this right, we have the opportunity right now to build an infrastructure system that's resilient, that's equitable, that's green, for our grandchildren. Because right now, we're operating on our grandparents' infrastructure. This is the opportunity we have in front of us. If we can invest in our infrastructure now in an equitable way, we have the opportunity to make sure that our grandchildren will be able to live their best lives, that they can thrive, that they have an economy. Because for too long, we've seen an infrastructure system that has cut people out, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. And I think that with this new Congress, what we have is the opportunity to take all of those lived experiences that have literally never been shared with the other decision makers that are in the room and start building the foundation of a society where people can access their health care, their education, their places of worship, recreation for all communities, regardless of their wealth, because recreation is not something that only the wealthy should be able to have. So when I think about the work that we get to do on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and I know that people are like, why does Sharice look like she's gonna pop out of her little loafers? Every time she talks about infrastructure, it's because this is the thing that I get to work on that's bigger than me. And it's bigger than me in the here and now, and it's bigger than me for generations to come. And to be able to be not just a member of Congress, but a member of Congress who serves on transportation and infrastructure and gets to bring up issues of tribal transportation, of rural transportation and infrastructure, things like broadband as infrastructure, thinking of our schools as part of our infrastructure, these are the things that we get to do now. And this is the stuff that Democrats talk about and think about and fight for. And even though I'm from, for some folks, one of those rectangles in the middle, and for some people there's actually a lot of people in here who have ties to Kansas, I know because I met a bunch of them. So even though I'm out here and I'm hearing all kinds of, today was such an amazing day for me. I have to express my gratitude for having the opportunity to listen to the LGBTQ youth panel and to listen to the future of transportation, the folks who were talking about all of this stuff earlier and how we need to have communities involved in the process. Imagine that, communities being able to be involved in the decision making about the transportation and infrastructure that they use. So even though I get to be part of all of this stuff in DC, I feel when I come to something like this, like I get to see really that I'm part of this much bigger thing, this thing that is happening across the country with gatherings like this, with folks who are working and putting their heart and soul and blood, sweat and tears and every ounce of energy that they have into making sure that we are leaving this place better than when we got here. So for all of you here, the last thing I'm gonna say is that I will pledge to each of you, and I would hope that all of us together can mutually pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Thank you.